There exists a specific type of stillness. It only descends when you shut your front door. It is not the empty quiet of loneliness. It is not the crushing burden of having nothing. It is the sound of a boat that has finally drifted to the silent center of a lake, where the ripples of the shore simply stop reaching the hull. It's that exact second. You hear the low hum of a refrigerator. You hear the faint settling of the floorboards. And you understand that for the rest of the evening, your energy is demanded by absolutely nobody. This isn't withdrawal. This is emotional recovery. And perhaps that is the part the world misses. The most important part. But let's look closer. To the outside world, this inclination is misunderstood. They watch somebody bloom within the walls of their own space, and they call them antisocial, withdrawn, terrified. But they are wrong. For a specific breed of human, the household isn't a bunker built to escape existence. It is the single environment where existence finally becomes navigable. In the open ocean of the public square, you are a ship taking on water. Every wave of expectation crashes over you. But once you step inside, you aren't just dry. You are the dry dock where your hull is finally repaired and made whole again. Perhaps this began in the early years. Think back to the crowded hallways, the chaotic energy of the school bus, the overwhelming roar of a shopping mall. For some children, those social arenas were like walking through a wind tunnel where every gust of noise threatened to blow their true self away. You had to project energy just to be noticed. You had to curate your expressions to fit in. You had to keep a constant guard up to feel safe. So, you cultivated a vivid internal landscape, a world that was gentler, slower, far more patient. Home ceased to be just a physical location. It became a spiritual anchor. Science tells us something interesting here. Those who cherish their domestic space often possess a heightened neurological sensitivity. Their brain isn't a simple sponge. It's a high-precision microphone. It turns every environmental whisper into a thunderclap, making a crowded room feel like standing on a runway during a jet takeoff. So, choosing the quiet of home isn't an act of avoidance. It is an act of biological regulation. It is the nervous system finally finding its equilibrium. It is your body saying, "Here, I am safe to rest." But let's go deeper. It isn't just about sensory input. There is an existential layer to this. Home is the only environment where we are permitted to retire the social avatar. We all have that version of ourselves, the one that smiles on cue, the one that masters the art of small talk, the one that knows exactly how to blend into the crowd. But the moment the deadbolt turns, that persona dissolves. What is left? The unfiltered, unedited human being. The version that doesn't need to justify its existence to anyone. It is a strange irony. A person can spend an entire day surrounded by colleagues and friends and still feel completely invisible. Yet the second they are alone in their kitchen with a quiet cup of coffee, they finally feel seen by themselves. That is the quiet alchemy of solitude. It isn't a lack of company. It is an intimacy with one's own soul. Our modern culture tends to deify the extrovert. We celebrate the doers, the networkers, the ones who are perpetually visible. We treat stillness as if it were a synonym for stagnation. We treat silence as if it were a red flag. But there is a profound strength in those who can inhabit their own company without restlessness. They have discovered that fulfillment isn't always found in the volume of life, but in its pauses. There is an old truth: if you cannot find peace within, you will never find it without. For the homebody, going inward is how they align their values. It is how they process their burdens. It is how they reconnect with what is authentic. Think about the way constant social exposure fragments the identity. You become a projection screen. You play whatever movie the audience wants to watch. But at home, the projector finally turns off. You can just be the theater itself. At home, the only audience is you. Now, there is a delicate balance between solitude and withdrawal. Humans are social creatures, but the paradox is this: those who love being home often maintain the most profound relationships. They refuse to dilute their energy on superficial ties. Instead, they seek out the bonds where words are optional, where you can share a space for hours in total silence and feel perfectly understood. That is presence, not performance. When researchers examine the link between solitude and the mind, they find something remarkable. People who spend intentional time alone score higher in creative insight. They score higher in emotional resilience. This isn't because they are inherently more gifted. It is because they are reflective. Instead of drowning out their internal conflicts with noise, they sit with them. In that stillness, the static of the world clears. Original thoughts stop being flickering candles struggling against the draft and become a steady, warm hearth. Think of your own moments of greatest clarity. They rarely strike in the middle of a loud party. They don't happen in a busy office. They arrive in the shower, during a late-night walk, or while staring out a window in an empty room. This is the hidden utility of the home. It provides the silence your intuition needs to finally speak up. Ironically, many people who prefer staying in carry a hidden burden of guilt. They feel the fear of missing out, as if life is a party happening elsewhere that they weren't invited to. Social media amplifies this. It presents a curated highlight reel of constant motion. But the truth is, everyone is searching for the same thing: a sense of arrival. For some, that arrival is simply a Friday night with a book and a blanket. There is a primal human need for retreat. In ancient times, the seeker went to a cave. They went to a mountain to find themselves. Today we do it in our living rooms, surrounded by plants, surrounded by soft lighting. The home is the modern monastery. From a physiological perspective, being at home places the body in a low-threat environment. Without the need to defend or impress, your cortisol levels drop. This is why you might suddenly feel a wave of emotion when you finally sit down at the end of the day. It isn't that you're sad, it's that your guard is finally down. It allows the feelings you've been suppressing to rise to the surface. It is healing, disguised as domesticity. People might say, "You should get out more," or "You're wasting your best years." They don't see the internal revolutions happening behind closed doors. Reading, journaling, dreaming. These are not nothing. They are the bricks and mortar of a solid identity. The homebody isn't avoiding the world. They are preparing for it. When they do eventually step out, they don't bring more chaos. They bring a grounded, calm energy. There is also a deep comfort in the predictable rhythm of one's space. The brain craves familiarity. Familiarity signals safety. Knowing exactly where the light switch is, knowing the specific way the floorboards creak. This isn't monotony. It is emotional regulation. Every small ritual, brewing tea, lighting a candle, tells the nervous system, you are no longer in danger. You can relax now. In a world obsessed with visibility, choosing to stay in is like finding a secret garden in a city made of glass. You don't need to show it to anyone for the flowers to be real. It challenges the idea that our worth is tied to our productivity or our social status. It proves that meaning can be found in the way sunlight hits a specific wall or the sound of rain against the glass. This is a slower, deeper kind of joy, one that doesn't need to be captured for a feed to be real. For those who love being home, silence isn't an empty void. It is music. It is the sound of finally being enough. They aren't detached. They simply feel life too intensely to be in the middle of it all the time. Their instinct isn't to escape the world, it is to protect their internal light from being blown out by the wind. You can see a person's soul in how they treat their sanctuary. Some homes are warm and filled with music. Others are dim, soft, scented with cedar. Each one is a physical map of the person living inside. The dreamers build comfort. The thinkers build order. And within those walls, they nurture a world that the public will never see. Studies on originality show us something crucial. When we are alone, our thoughts unfold in their most native form. Without the pressure of public perception, our ideas grow roots. This is why the greatest philosophers and artists, from Virginia Woolf to the great inventors, required their room of one's own. They knew that the outside world provides the data, but the home provides the laboratory. And really, when you stop to think about it, isn't that the whole point? It's not about hiding, it's about finding. If you are someone who finds your greatest strength in the quiet of your own space, never apologize for it. You aren't missing out on life. You are experiencing it on a deeper frequency. You are doing the internal work that the rest of the world is too distracted to notice. When the storm of modern life turns everything into a gray blur, it is the quiet ones who are sitting at the eye of the hurricane. Not because they are hiding, but because they have built their own center of gravity. Home isn't just a building. It is a reflection of peace that you have earned. It is a sanctuary built of patience and authenticity. It is where you go to meet yourself over and over again until you realize that in that sacred silence, you were never truly alone. You were simply coming home to the person you were always meant to be.